Everything you're about to hear is for entertainment purposes only. Listen, have some fun, but don't ever do, believe, or promote anything they say. They're idiots.
Guys, hold up. You should know, this ain't for everybody. Welcome to Savagely Loud. What's up to people, guys? Welcome back to the show for the people that understand the facts divided by feelings equals failure. I'm Cliff, I'm your host, and I'm joined by an ultra special guest today. But before we get to him, if you guys want to help me out, get these words out, get these truths out, you can follow me on Instagram at Savagely Loud. That is where I'm most active. On that page, you're going to find two links. One of those links is going to be the Savagely Loud podcast page. If you could please follow me there too, that'd be greatly appreciated, as that will inevitably be my backup page. And the other link you're going to find is a simple link tree. Anywhere you want to hear my bullshit or see my rants, you can get it there, easy peasy. Outside of that, you can get me on Facebook, X, Rumble, and Substack at Savagely Loud, YouTube at Savagely Loud Podcast, and you can email me in at savagelyloud@gmail.com, which I strongly suggest you do if you want to guarantee that I see your communication at some sort of timely manner. Last but not least, guys, don't forget to like, comment, and share the material. It really does help us when you do that kind of stuff, and make sure you rate and review the show.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Make sure you rate and review the show. It really does help us get into the algorithm and get these words out, get these truths out, and get these people heard, like this man that I'm joined by today. Without further ado, it is Jess Seiwert. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good. Sorry about my daughter running in here. She always got to be around daddy. Do
not ever be sorry for kids wanting to be around their daddy. All that is a testament to you as a father, and I like seeing it. So
appreciate that.
Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you at?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and TikTok, both at Recon, the number 2 recovery, Recon 2 recovery. It's my handle on both. I just opened up my TikTok account, so it's pretty small. I'm new on here. I've only been online for about a few months here, but I've started posting about 6 weeks ago, and here we are.
Hell yeah, dude. I stumbled upon your you got me with one of your videos. I saw the boobs, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, and veterans. I was like, yes, that's fucking awesome. And then next thing you know, not too long after that, you messaged me, and I so very rarely ever accept anybody on to be on the show inside of a single text message. But you messaged me, and in one message, I knew I had to have you on. I knew people needed to hear what you had to say. So I was just immediately like, fuck yeah, because you hit me with information about veterans and addiction and the combination of the two, a little bit about your history. And it was a very checkered past. I loved it because you had the foresight and the fortitude to turn that shit around, and not only turn your own life around, but then actually turn yourself into this giant force of goodness to bring help to so many other people. So let's talk about what it is that you specialize in.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the introduction. That's kind of you. So what I do today is I am a recovery coach, which means that I walk people through. I work for a nonprofit here in Kansas City. And what I do is I kind of walk people through who are in addiction or alcoholism. You know, alcohol is a drug, and kind of show them the ropes. Kind of lived experiences is kind of what I'm trying to show these people, like that. This is how I did it. It doesn't have to be your map, but this is a way through it. And there's so many struggles that I've gone through, from being homeless to being in addiction to being without jobs, to not know how to get a job again. You know, to all that stuff is learned experiences, and I can use that to kind of help those who are in early addiction. And I'm also in college right now at a major university here called Fort Hays State University in Kansas, and I'm a junior studying social work. And people say, when they hear social work, they're like, "Oh, you're going to be taking kids away from people." Like, no, there's many different routes of social work, and one of the ones that I do is for a licensed addiction counseling degree. So I will have that in about a year and a half. and be an addiction counselor. But in the meantime, while I'm working my way through school, through the GI Bill, thank God for that, I work for this nonprofit, and it's an amazing opportunity. I mean, it's a job that, like, it's stuff that I did early in recovery to help other addicts out. And I never thought that I would actually get paid to do this. I mean, I don't, and nobody goes into social work to get paid a lot of money. Just know that.
Right.
So I took a pay cut to come from a construction job to do this job, but I've never had an office job. I've never sat at a desk, and doing this is like the most amazing gift. That I'm one of those people that truly get up and get excited to go to work every day. First time since I was in the military that I actually can say that.
That's absolutely amazing. So, in this world that we live in, that is so blinded by material things, by the money. Like, how could you take a pay cut to go do something else? Oh, what do you mean pay cut? Pay cut? But so many times we hear the story of somebody taking a pay cut and actually finding their happiness. Yep. And that's a very difficult step in and of itself, because as soon as, just think about if you incur a bill, like a monthly bill, let's say it's $30. Immediately you're already thinking about how do I gain that $30 somewhere else? How do I make up that $30 that I now have to spend over here? So now I need more money. And then you get focused on the money. But you took a different route, and which I really appreciate, and to a large extent I adore, because you said, fuck the money. You know what? Money's great, but people are better. And yep. I have something in my heart that God is calling me to exercise with other people, so that I can help them, even if it's just in the smallest ways. And right. That obviously, you've had that for a long time, which is because that's why you went into the military, right?
Absolutely. That was, I'm from a small town in Southeast Kansas. It's a farming community. I grew up on a farm. I didn't know anything outside of that small town. I grew up this is how remote I grew up. I grew up 5 miles from a town of 1,200 people on a farm. So we grew up, and I grew up in an alcoholic dad, codependent mom, and I'm not here to talk down to my parents, because I love my folks. They have their mistakes. They did the best they could with what they had. I truly believed that, but it wasn't a healthy childhood. But I did learn things in life that are important that I carry with me today, and that's how to work hard, how to respect others, how to respect your elders. And those are things that I carry around, those small town values that I still have today. But I joined the Army at 19 after 9/11 had happened. And 9/11 happened in 2001. Same year I graduated that spring. 9/11 happened. I was working at a factory, and I was like, man, I'm not even sure. I don't think I even know what the Twin Towers really are. But I know that terrorists hit it, and I wanted to be a part of something. And so the next year I joined the Army. I went off to basic training. I graduated basic training from a scout. I was a cavalry scout is what I did, which is a 16-week basic training, which is crazy. The longest one in the military is called OSET, or it was when I was in. And then I went straight into airborne school. And then I got deployed to South Korea. I say deployed. It was a peacekeeping mission. The only thing we fought over there was chlamydia and gonorrhea. Yeah. And that's when I learned how to drink, right? Because I turned 20 in basic training. And what's crazy about that is the legal drinking age in South Korea was 20. So being in the military, they stuck by those rules of the country. So I was like, man, this is just meant for me. I can drink all the, God wants me to drink, right? So, I really dove into alcoholism really bad there. But I was sitting in the chow hall in 2003 when the invasion went down in Baghdad. And I watched it go down in the chow hall on the big screen TV we had in there. And, man, I was, like, excited. I was like, this is what I joined the military for. I was so pissed. I tried to deploy from South Korea. They weren't taking any combat arms guys. They were just taking the support guys. So I went back to Fort Carson after my year in Korea was done in 2004, and then we deployed in 2005. But throughout this, I went to air assault school in Korea. They opened that back up. I went out there. And before I deployed to Iraq, I went to a sniper school. They brought an MTT course. It's a mobile training. I'm sure what MTT stands for anymore. It's been 20 years. But they brought this course out to Fort Carson. So we were able to do that. Then I deployed, man, and I made E5 in 2.5 years in Army. So real fast promotion. Went into combat with an open eyes about the world, because you got to realize I grew up in Southeast Kansas. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and that's kind of, and I guess I can just keep going there. Was in Iraq. I got hurt in 2006. I went on mid-tour in 2005, I think, right in there. And then I went back after mid-tour, and our truck was struck by a massive IED, 3 155 artillery round shells. And here's a crazy side note, I digress. The shells that hit us, artillery rounds that hit us, said U.S. on the side of them. And people were like, how's that possible? It's like, well, I don't know if you know this, but United States funded Iraq during the Iraq-Iran war in like the late 70s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So they had all the stockpile of our ammunition we're trying to get out of there. How crazy. I mean, just that's the American way though, right?
Yep.
I wouldn't have had it any other way. So anyways, I broke my collarbone. I broke a whole bunch of ribs. I was super injured. I was knocked out. I was a gunner because I was ejected out of the turret, landed on my head. Anyways, finished my tour out, thought everything was going to be fine. You know, the truck burned down. Anyways, came back to Fort Carson, and I got promoted to E6 staff sergeant. And then they did some screening on me, said, hey, you got to get out of the military. Your traumatic brain injury is too severe. Your PTSD looks like it's too severe. And so I took a medical retirement in 2009 as a staff sergeant, which basically paid me enough money not to do anything.
So, this is an aspect that we never hear anybody talking about. Okay. So you went into the military with the full intention of making it a lifetime career, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
So when you received the news after you got hurt, you got better, you got through all this, and then you got a promotion. When you received the news that your lifetime career goal was now over, how did that affect you mentally? Because I'm going to guess that it didn't do anything positive, and may have assisted in leading you down a pathway to where you ended up having to come back from.
1,000%, because I've said it, and I tell people all the time that, when I was in the Army in 2000s, in the 2000s, pretty much all the early 2000s, that PTSD was a kind of a newer thing. They put a title on it, but it was really a stigma around it because there was a lot of people, and I'm not trying to downgrade anybody's service because that's not what I'm here to do, nor would I ever do that to any veteran who served honorably. But there was a lot of soldiers, not a lot, there was a big enough amount of soldiers who were claiming PTSD because they didn't want to redeploy back to the war, or they did join the Army and didn't realize the war was going to be going on this long, or it was going to be that severe, because it was intense. You got to realize you were in Iraq and Afghanistan both at the same time at that point, right? So you were going somewhere. If you joined the Army, you're going to combat. So a lot of guys were using that as an excuse to get out. So when anybody said, hey, I'm struggling with PTSD, it was automatically a red flag. What is this person up to? So I denied having PTSD I was retired for it, medically retired, and I still denied having it for so many years. And because the military was, like you said, I signed up for indefinite. So that means that the military you're just in there until they get done with you, or until you decide to retire after 20 or 30 years, whatever you want to do. I knew that when I made E6 in 4 years, whatever it was, 4.5 years, that I was on my way to a fast track promotion to, what people call 7 and 7, which is E7 Sergeant First Class in 7 years, which is a hell of a goal to get to. But that was where I was going towards. But when I got that news, it was devastating to me. And I was such a mess that, drinking, and then I had the painkillers I was doing all it. And and that's another thing that really, I could go on about that all day, but over medicating our soldiers and our veterans, and I don't know if it's still going on. I'm out now, and obviously been out since 2009, but the over medication is atrocious. I mean, I was on 7, 8 different medications, and I didn't know what they were. I was just taking them as the doctor told me to. I was a raging lunatic, and all my wife, who I just had 2 kids with, left me because she's like, I'm not being around this craziness. She was like, you're a danger to everybody you're around. And I was still in denial. I was still that staff sergeant who was, thinking he was going to lead soldiers into combat. And so when I got that news, I'll tell you what, man, I just didn't know what to do with it. It's like losing the only dream you've ever had in life, right? And some people, their dream is to have a family, or some people to have a career, finish college. Mine was to serve my country.
So when they took that away, it was safe to say complete and total devastation. And you did touch on something right there that I think is yet another thing that most people don't ever acknowledge, and that's when when we have our men specifically join the military, and we have our military turn them into the most efficient and proficient weapons of war that this country and this timeline has ever known. When they come back, that there's a lot of struggle there, because I mean, I'm friends with a lot of veterans. I am not a veteran. I dropped out of high school to join the Marines. I wanted to join the Army, and then my buddy said he was going to join the Marines, and it turns out neither one of us could get in. He couldn't get in for some physical thing, and I couldn't get in because I was a high school dropout. Mm-hmm. And at that point, they didn't take you if you were a dropout unless you were in time of war, and I wasn't. So I'm not a veteran, but I know a lot of veterans, and they all struggle with the come home part, where when you guys leave, you guys meaning veterans, when you guys leave, you're one person, and then your loved ones don't get to see you for a good stint of time. But then when you reappear in their lives, you're this other person. You're a little bit colder. You're a little bit harder because you have to be. And maybe it's things that you don't understand because you've been carved into this weapon of war. But there's a lot of gravity behind the attitude change for all of your loved ones. So yet another thing to add on to the pile of struggle that you faced when you came home. I mean, how could you? I look at a lot of the things that veterans, and you specifically in this particular scenario, the things that you faced upon coming home that weren't, the catastrophic things. It was the seemingly minuscule or unnoticed things by general society that really just stacked up that were not in your favor, and you had to fucking deal with that at the same time of dealing with this addiction stuff, at the same time of dealing with the complete and total mind fuck of losing your life's dream. Like that's pretty heavy. I'm not gonna lie. That's really heavy to think about.
Oh man. You bringing me back. I was just kind of thinking about going through that time when I was getting out. Cause I spent a year and a half just going through the med board process. Right. And they did a big story on the WTU. It was a Warrior Transition Unit. They opened it up brand new at Fort Carson just to basically get soldiers out who were being medically discharged. And it made the New York Times. You can Google it today with my name, Google it, and you will pull up my story that I'm featured in, because they did not an article on me, it was an article on the Warrior Transition Unit, because it was such a disaster. They were putting all these people out, and then you were having guys like me who, let's get them fresh out of combat. Here you go. Here's a civilian. Be a civilian now. Here's a whole bunch of money. Here's your retirement at 25 years old, whatever I was, 26 at the most. Here's your retirement. Find a life to live. And you got to realize I spent a year being a civilian outside of high school, straight into the military, straight into Korea, straight deployed. And when I wasn't deployed, we were training, because that's what combat arms do. We spend very little time in the rear, and that time we spent drinking and partying and doing all that stuff. So, my whole life was revolved around that. And then, I'm not saying that, I'm not making an excuse for my behavior or anything that happened, but looking back now, I was like, man, I thought I had it all together, and I was a freaking disaster, just a ticking time bomb. And that's what led to, me going down the road I went down.
So, yeah. And that seems to be a very, a broad spectrum kind of summarization for a lot of veterans is you come home and you're a fucking ticking time bomb, because 2 days ago I was being shot at from across a desert or a forest or what have you, and today I'm expected to go get the fucking mail and shovel the driveway, and everything is super peaceful. And just the transition between a place of war, like all out war, mental war, physical war, everything, spiritual war, to just rip somebody out of that environment and then stick them in peacetime. Oh, dude, I don't. So many people would be like, that's a beautiful thing. And I'm just like, I feels horrible. Like, I feel like, you're just being used by a machine that wants to use you, and and like you said earlier, once they're used up, you're out,
That's right. And that was it. It was like when I got out, I was struggling with all this stuff, and I was having problems before I got out that were documented problems, right? There was I mean, in the whole story I told you about, that was that the New York Times featured talks about that, and I'll get into that. I'll go ahead and open up about that, because this was something I wasn't able to share for years because of the shame. I got out of the Army and married my second wife. I knew her for like a few months, met her at a bar. She was I think my best friend in the Army was his sister's, his wife's sister. Anyhow, she was young. She was like 19. I was like 25. So I jumped from out of my first marriage with my kids straight into this marriage that was just, a drinking, bar, partying anyways. So I was out of the Army I got retired in March of 2009. I got married in July. I want to say June of that year. And 6 weeks after I was married, I found out that we were drinking, partying one night with one of my best friends from the Army, someone who deployed with us in Iraq. He was still active duty. And long story short, I found out an affair between them. And I woke up in the next morning in jail with assault charges, first degree attempted murder charges, and second degree kidnapping charges. A $400,000 bond, Colorado Springs Jail, CJC, 2009. And I was in college, doing the whole college, studying business at Colorado Tech University, just trying to, I guess, be a civilian, trying to be I went to college because I was like, that's what people are supposed to do when you get out of the military, right? That's what they told me to do. Go to college, do something with your life. But I had no interest in it. But I did have interest in numbing this pain. And I was so addicted to these painkillers they were giving me. And I was drinking on top of it every day. It was just a nightmare waiting to happen. And the wife having the affair was just the end of it. With my best friend on top of that, someone who was supposed to be a battle buddy for life. But that's just the way life is. I made a bad decision. And like I said, I woke up. Well, I went through 16 months of county jail. This story was featured all over Colorado, top story. Came in and interviewed me in the jail. The news did. Because it was a guy who'd never been in trouble in his whole life going to prison, right? They were trying to give me 25 years. That's what they were trying to give me. Ended up fighting it down. Went to my lawyer fought for me really hard. He was an ex-Marine, which is awesome. And what he ended up doing was getting me into this hyperbaric treatment. It was a oxygen chamber treatment is what this is. They let me go while I was in county jail. And I went through a month of this hyperbaric Rocky Mountain Hyperbaric Institute, what it was called. Amazing people that gave me a grant to go through it while I was in jail. They transported me every day. We had to pay for the transportation just to get my brain healed up right so I could go to prison. How crazy is that? So I went through this treatment, and then I ended up taking a 5-year prison sentence for assault.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's when we think of prison, we just think of the worst of the worst of society, and to have that clash with the reality that is you having to be healed so that you were good enough to go to prison. That is a true testament on what our I think maybe not all, but I think a good majority of our soldiers go through in that course of events, like we've already laid out, between, finding the dream, executing the dream, and then, having the dream removed, and then you all this other catastrophic shit happening. That's wild. It's wild to fucking think that you had to be healed up. Cause I mean, I know you somewhat. And there's I'm pretty good judge of character here, and I don't feel any vibes from you of like murderer vibes or like, kidnapper vibes, but you better watch this guy. Like you feel like you'd be like the guy, like you better watch him because he's going to do your homework for you. If like you feel like a really great dude. And what I think, and the reason I'm saying this is because I think that it probably has a lot to do with what you're doing now. Because you chose to go through, you made some decisions. All right. But then you chose to go through everything that was handed to you and come out the back end and be like, okay, well, now this is my past. That doesn't have to dictate my future. Production pivot. Let's become something awesome. And now I'm looking at a guy that literally just helps people personally get through life on a daily basis. What led you to this change? What led you to, not only, I know you were an addict. I was an addict myself. I was really heavily into cocaine and uppers and shit like that. But what led you to actually be able to do that production pivot? Because I myself, like, I've done a lot of helping people. Like, I've been a suicide counselor my whole life. Like, I literally talked the first person out of suicide in 4th grade in my life, and I've just never stopped since. But I never, as an addict, I never had that where, like, I mean, I've quit a lot of things that I was addicted to, but never once had that thing where it's like, I want to go help other people stop this. In fact, I think I took the route that a lot of addicts take. Like, I cold turkeyed, I did it alone. I went through all the fucking pain, all the torment. And then I kind of got mad about it at the end of that journey of detoxing and stuff. And then I kind of looked at it as like, all these motherfuckers need to do it for themselves, you know? Yeah. But you took that higher road. You took that loving road. So what led you to that? I'm really curious as to where that pivot happened in your brain or in your soul or your heart that made you want to help other people do what they're doing.
Well, you know, I always say that, you know, I'm 42 now. You know, I got clean when I was 40, and you know, and it's like, if I had died when I was 40 years old or 39, it would have been a sad story. That's it. It would have been a story of a guy who had struggles in his life and made a lot of bad decisions after that, right? And I didn't want my legacy to be that. I didn't want my kids to know me as that, right? I didn't want I didn't want to be that guy who was known as somebody who was just frankly, what I saw was a piece of shit, right? And I was like, I don't want to be that guy. I finally decided that I'm not going to allow myself to be the guy who's talking in prison about how he used to be a staff sergeant in the Army and how he went over and did all these incredible things in Iraq, right? So honestly, I don't know what took me so long. Cause you know, when I went to prison, you know, I became a criminal. I became the best criminal I could become. Cause that's what I do. Whenever I do something, I go all in. And I was like, fuck, if you guys want me to be a criminal, I had to walk the walk. I had to talk the talk. I had to fight. And you know, I learned how to grow up and fight in the country. I grew up how to learn and fight in the Army. But there ain't nothing like fighting people in a prison cell, bro. You know what I'm saying? I got my ass whooped more times than I can count. You know, so I got humbled there. I went back to prison, and then I spent years in addiction, just giving up. And I finally got tired of getting my ass whooped. That was basically what it was. I was just like, there's no way that I can use or drink successfully and have a good life. Because that was what I was trying to do, right? I was trying to manage both. Yeah. And it was like, I can have my cake and eat it too. I can have a few beers on a weekend. Well, there are a lot of people out there that can. Most people can. And here's the thing, what you said about you getting clean, most people get clean on their own who are addicts. It's those ones like me who need time and time and time again and just getting beat down and helped up and beat down and helped up before they make that decision. There's a difference between helping and enabling, and I'll get into that a little bit too, because I got enabled a lot. I had family members that kind of enabled me, you know, oh, poor guy, he has PTSD, he has a Purple Heart, he got hurt in Iraq, let him drink, let him do some meth, right? You know? And so I use that as an excuse. I played the victim role for so long. And, you know, I was listening to Jordan Peterson one day, and he says, you can become the victim, then you can go to survivor, and then you can go to conqueror, you know, and that really resonated with me because I was like, I realized that if I can make it out of this addiction, and I put my head down, and I have good family support, my wife is still with me, bless her heart, and I have a new family now. We've been married for almost 5 years, and we have, as you saw my daughter come in, and we have our son who is also 5, who has autism, who's an amazing kid. But anyways, I was like, you know what? People was like, Jess, you have a story to tell. And if you can make it out of this, if you can get through this and you can get your life together, then you have the power to help so many people out just through sharing your struggles. Because there's so many people out there like, I'm homeless. I've been homeless. I've been in Iraq. I can't do this. It's like they get this in their mentality that I can't do it. And I'm like, if I can do it, motherfucker, anybody can. Right?
Yeah, that's incredible that you had the presence of mind to not only realize that you can do it, but realize that you're not special. Like, I think that's one of the hardest fucking things for most people to understand, especially when you're talking about addiction. You're not special, and everybody is taught to believe they're special. And then as you grow up, you want to believe you're special. And then as you get into, especially down in the despair and the depths of addiction, you convince yourself that you're special. You convince yourself that you're this other unhelpable thing, you know, and then then you get to a point where, at least I did, where I didn't want the fucking help. I'm like, dude, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right into the fucking grave. Go take that love, take that compassion, and you spread that shit thick as fuck on everybody that can have it, everybody that you can reach. Go take it over there, because I'm a lost cause. And then one day you kind of wake up and realize, like, wow, I feel like shit. I feel like I got hit by a train every single fucking day. I got to do this other shit so that I don't feel like that. I'm done. I'm done with this. Maybe I'm not a lost cause, because you get to that point mentally where it's like, if I can realize that I'm over this addiction somewhere in me, maybe I'm not beyond help. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think
go ahead, brother.
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because we always talk about in recovery, and I always tell people, I was like, bro, until I came into the rooms of addiction in Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous and all these different programs that I do, and I bring a meeting up to the VA here at Leavenworth every Monday night. We and my sponsor bring a meeting up, and we chair it for the inpatient group. And I always try to tell people, man, it's like, you guys, nobody's special in this room. We're not that unique snowflake we all think we are. We've all been through. Here's the story of addiction. You got either drugs or alcohol. You found some alcohol or drugs. You did them. You found some more. You did them. You went to jail and you did some more. You know, that's basically it is. Like, we've all been there. We may have our own little stories and our own backgrounds, because everybody comes from culturally different backgrounds, but it all ends up to the same issue: is what about me is so incomplete or so empty that I feel like I got to fill that up with drugs and alcohol. Because I used to be like, I can't even start the day without a drink, without getting high, because I didn't feel complete. I didn't feel whole enough, right? Because I was running from childhood trauma. I was running from the Iraq stuff. You got to realize, I didn't get treatment. It took me, I went to treatment in 2020. What is that? 11 years after I got out of the Army, before I actually was like, okay, maybe I need some help. Maybe after all these felonies, maybe after all this broken families and trauma that I've been through, maybe I need to talk to somebody. So I went to Valley Hope in Atchison, which is 30 minutes from here. And I live in Leavenworth, right? And here's the crazy thing about it is, like, I don't know nobody, but everybody's like, why are you moving to Leavenworth? I was like, they're like, you don't know anybody there. And I was like, that's exactly why I'm moving, bro.
I knew exactly why you were moving there when you said it.
Yeah. And I spent 60 days in treatment, because that's what they wanted me to do. Because I was like, I'm tired of driving the car, because, man, my car ended up on its hood every time I drove. So I'm like, maybe somebody else that knows how to do this shit can do it, and I'll listen to somebody else's advice, right? Instead of being staff sergeant, it's like, bro, you've been out for 15 years. Give that shit up. You need to be something better in life. And then when I got into this job, I started going, well, see, I speak every month at Valley Hope. I go back up and I give my testimony, right? Because the inpatient group, my counselors love me, and I'm really connected with them still. And I love them. They saved my life, truly. My 7th time at rehab, just to get that straight. That was my 7th attempt at rehab. The other ones were court ordered, as was this one. But I usually dropped out or left or got kicked out. But I give back, and I started giving back. And they're like, that's when I got into the social work aspect of things. Because they're like, Jess, you need to go to school for this. And I already had so much college, and it transferred over. And they're like, you can get this job as a peer mentor, which is what I do now. And I went to the interview, and they were like, sold. When can you start? So it's been a dream of my lifetime, because I don't help out the guys who are still using and don't want help. We help out the guys who are homeless, who are in rehab, who are in jail. We do transition for people that are in prison and at the Lansing prison. We do so much work with people, and that's why people always I do my awareness online. They're always like, "Oh, how many veterans have you helped?" And I was like, I don't say anything, but I'm like, every day, bro, every single day, I'm helping somebody. I have sponsees that are veterans. I have a sponsor that's a veteran. My whole life is surrounded with veterans and people in addiction, and that's who I surround myself with.
Well, that's one of the fucking the call signs. So, I'm a mentor to a lot of people, despite my content and what people view of my content. My content is specifically formulated to spark conversations through an incendiary manner. A lot of the shit that I fucking say is just embellished. I don't, I have to make it sound like I believe some of it, because I need to have that conversation. But in the background, in the shadows, like I'm always helping somebody. Like every single day I've got conversations going on. I've got this group of men and a group of people that every morning I send out individualized, just good morning text messages to, not, some of them need it. Some of these guys need to know somebody's in their corner as soon as their eyes open up. And I don't have a problem being that guy, because it can happen just as simple as a text message. Some of the people that I send morning text messages to are just because I think they're awesome. I think they're doing well, and I want them to continue doing that, So, and they probably don't have a lot of people in their corner. They do have a lot of people in their corner, but it's not that closeness. You know what I mean? But, the call sign for anybody that I've ever dealt with that doesn't help nearly as much as they think they do is asking you who you've helped. They want a number on what you've helped. Motherfucker, people that help people we don't keep track. We don't have the numbers in front of us. Well, I've coached, I've coached somewhere between 150 and 200 people out of suicide my whole life. But that's as good as a number as I can give you, is somewhere between 150 and 200 people. And that's just based on things that I've got. I used to read the letters, because I would get written letters. People's moms would write me letters, or dads, would come over and just jot down some shit for me. And I would read through those. But these people out here that always want to know who you're helping, how many people you help, motherfucker, a lot more than you are, very obviously, because I don't keep track and you apparently do. So why don't, and those are the fun ones, because you're like, well, why don't you come to work with me one day?
Exactly.
And I'll see if I can get you involved in actually helping motherfuckers.
Exactly. And that's the thing about it is, and here's the sad truth. And I think that most people, I don't know if they know it or not. The people that are in my situation, that have been in my situation, we're the statistic, right? We're the ones that have been in addiction for so long. People that looked at me after my criminal history and say, he's a career criminal. Get this. The guys I work with are very similar. A lot of people are guys and gals I work with are very similar to that. They're the people that everybody else is giving up on, right? We work with the extreme cases, like the ones that, and then there's not a lot that make it. Just to be honest, most don't. But right. If I got a 40 client caseload and I got one that makes it, I'm happy, and it's not that they make it, but because recovery is a lifetime thing, you know what I mean? You can't just be like, okay, I'm clean, I'm going to start. You got to continue to work on you as a person, because there's something inside of you, or many things that led you down that road of where you were in this self-destructive pattern. And another thing is addicts and alcoholics, and just humans in general, were selfish ass motherfuckers. As is human nature, right? And so becoming a dad helps with that. Service work helps with that. My job helps with that, because I've been selfish my entire. Yes, I had a selfish career in the Army, but I loved what I did, so I didn't really see it as selfless, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? My service was who I was. But when it came down to I always made decisions that were best for me. Now I have to make decisions that are best for my family. Now I have to make decisions that are best for, my wife sacrifices a lot. My kids sacrifice a lot because of the time. You got to realize I work full time at my job. I go to school full time at fucking 42 years old, which isn't easy to do.
Right.
And I do all the service work I do as much as I can, and trying to post in between all that shit. It's like my life's full and balanced in that hectic craziness. But the whole thing about me is when I give back to somebody, not only am I helping them, hopefully, but it's also helping my recovery as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, go for it. Go, keep going.
No, that was it. That was what I was saying is, the satisfaction you get from just somebody's, like you said, that morning text changes somebody's day. You're giving somebody a compliment on the streets. Hey, you look nice today. Hey, that's a cool shirt. If not creepy status, but those little compliments go a long way with people who are really struggling, and you don't know what anybody's going through when you see them on the street.
You really don't know. And here's the thing to remember. And this is something I oftentimes lose sight of, is it's not necessarily even, you don't know what they're going through, because that puts you in a mental state of trying to figure it out. Just know that they are going through something. Everybody that you run into on a daily basis is going through something. You know nothing about it, or you may know a lot about it, but right now, in this moment, they're going through something and that's all you know. So try to chillax a little bit. Like I said, I oftentimes overlook that. I will lose my shit on the road. You know, somebody sitting through a green light, you know, it's silly shit like that. But you know, the fact that everybody's going through something, it puts a greater weight on that number that you just gave. So you said, you know, if you've got a caseload of 40 people and one person makes it, not only does that help that person, but that helps your recovery as well. Now, I want to touch on that because that is a fact. I do a lot of mentality coaching and perspective coaching, just getting people to see the better. You know, you only ever see what you're looking for, and people have a really bad habit of looking for the worst shit. Yeah. So it's just, you know, kind of awakening people to the goodness in their life that does already exist. But when you have a caseload of 40 people and one person makes it, that I feel like I have a better record than that. Like the people that I've helped, you know, when you move into drug addiction and alcoholism, that drastically sways the odds of success. Yeah. Rather than just, you know, you're in a dark spot right now, let me try to point out some great things in your life. This adds a drastic sway to the rate of success, and it plummets. And when you're helping somebody, as with me, I've gone through a lot of shit. Anybody that's listened for any sort of amount of time, go listen to episode, I think it's episode 3, Who the Hell is Cliff? Go listen to that episode. You'll get a little bit of a taste, just a little taste of what I've been through. It's absolutely incredible to know that just helping somebody else helped me so greatly. Mm-hmm. And then with you helping these people, these addicts, these alcoholics, these veterans and everything, knowing that helps you is an astounding thing because you're aware of it. You're self-aware. Like that means I know I have to keep doing this. This is part of the message that I'm receiving from whatever deity that I believe in that shows me that I'm on the right path. But here is a testament to your actual willpower. When you reduce the odds of success, when you're putting in everything, because you put in everything you got into these people, I know you do. Yeah. When 39 out of 40 don't succeed, that's a lot of weight for you to have to deal with. Mm-hmm. And I know, I imagine that's raveled up into the, you know, it makes me better, but that's a consistent truckload of weight that you continually have to deal with because your heart and soul has now been put into this person. And I understand that there's this certain part of you, there's certain percentage of you that reserves for failure. You know what I mean? But seeing the failure, knowing that you were viewed as you were viewed upon as such a failure for so long, that's just the reality of things. Like you had said earlier, you know, you saw yourself as a piece of shit, and most likely so did everybody else. And how does that affect you? Like, how do you get past that, or do you look at it as like I already know you're going to fail, you know, or I already know you could fail. I don't want to put that interjection on there, but or that inflection on there. But I already know you could fail, but I'm really fucking working for you to not fail. How does it affect you? Does it put you backwards? Does it put you in the dark or anything like that when somebody doesn't succeed?
Well, there's a thing about it. We have a saying at work: don't take credit for the successes because you don't want to take credit for the failures. Right. And that's something I carry around with me. And I'd say 39, if I say May 1 makes it, I have a higher success rate generally with that. But after they're done with my services, I don't know what happens to it. You know what I'm saying? Generally, because it's a business relationship. They don't have my personal number. They have, if I don't hear from them again and they don't show back up in services, I consider it a success. Right. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, if they don't make it, we think of it like this, and this is from what I've been taught and just on the job training and from other people that I work with, my colleagues that really have been doing this for a long time, that really put me on the right path. I have a kind of a mentor, added a mentor job, if that makes sense. And he says, we're planting seeds for these people. We're not curing them. We're not healing them. We're planting seeds for them. Because if they do decide to go back out and use or drink again, they know where to come to. They know the right road to go down to get help. The resources are there. We've shown them the resources. So if they do go back out and they don't overdose or they don't kill themselves or end up in prison, when they get out or when they decide they're ready to come back, they know, because we planted those seeds, they know where to come back to get help from. And that's kind of what I think to myself is like, if you go back out and relapse, I try to tell my clients all the time, man, because the biggest thing is someone will relapse or they'll get in trouble and then they won't talk to me because they feel ashamed, right? And I'm like, bro, listen, I told you my story. I relapsed 100. I don't know if I've ever even relapsed because I wasn't trying to quit. I was forced sobriety a few times,
right.
But I never was wanting to quit. I was like, bro, there's no shame in a relapse. The shame is when you don't pick yourself back up and try to come again, you know what I mean? And try to do it all over again because, man, the addiction is hard. And that's what people don't understand. People just like, and especially people that outside of addiction that are looking in and like, man, you know how many times I got told, Jess, why don't you just quit drinking or just quit doing drugs and drink? Why can't you do that? And because people don't understand what the problem isn't. Some people turn to cocaine, some people turn to alcohol, some people turn to meth. Fentanyl is a big thing these days. Some people turn to gambling or porn. Whatever it is, there's always the root of the problem is always the person, the trauma from the background, the history, the depression. All that stuff has to get managed, and you can't just get it through a recovery coach or a counselor. It has to be a holistic approach of, I'm going to get my mental health dialed in if I need to be on mental health meds or talking to somebody regularly. I need a support system of positive people who aren't criminals. You know, I hear people all the time sitting in a trap house talking about how their life sucks. I'm like, well, bro, if you're be sitting in a trap house around a bunch of criminals, guess what? Your life's not going to get better. You know what I mean? Through osmosis, you have to actually put in the work. And that's the difference is when you're ready, and that's what you asked me earlier about what made me change. When you're just tired of the shit and you're like, and I was at the point where I was either going to be like, I'm going to be a lifetime criminal. I'm going to try to stay out of jail as long as I can, get as high as I can, drunk as I can before I have to go back and do the minimum amount of time I can possibly get away with. Mm-hmm. And then that was kind of where because I felt irredeemable, right? I felt like nobody was going to care about me again. I was poor me. I'm a piece of shit. Everybody sees me as this. I'm a criminal. And I'm like, okay, fuck it. And it's an easy way to give up, man. But that's what addiction wants you to do. And until you find, for me, it's God. You know what I mean? It's my higher power. In the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, they say have a higher power. But that higher power can be the meeting. It can be your family. As long as they say it can't be a doorknob because you can overpower a doorknob. So it's got to be something that's higher than you, right? And for me, it's God. I was raised in a Christian. Going to church in a religious way, not a Christian way. There's a difference for me. And I was raised, go to church. My parents will stay home and get fucked up. And that's kind of how we did it, And so I always knew there was a God, but I had to connect with my God. I had to find who my higher power was. And God identified himself to me, not through the church, but through me just kind of being able to be mindful, being able to have a spiritual connection with something that was greater than me, And another thing is like, I like, the Native Americans they're called the Great Spirit, and it's just like a being bigger than yourself that runs, that's bigger. And I kind of explain to people, like, if you can't find a higher power, because a lot of people don't want to name a God because they've had trauma at church, or they've been, the churches are the most corrupt business in America, right? So, yeah, so I'm like, just find something, a higher power that may be karma. Whatever it could be for you, don't have to put a name on it. But if your world is as big, if you're your God, and I was my own God for so many years, and my world was as big as me, and it was a small fucking world, let me tell you. Because if you came into my world, it was my world, my way or the highway, and I was driving into a ditch every time. So I found it's like, and I'll go back to that, is the holistic approach. I got to make sure that I'm taking my mental health meds that I got dialed in. I'm taking 2 now instead of 18. I got to make sure that I'm spending time doing shit for family, make sure that I'm spending time with my wife, make sure that I'm spending time with recovery, school, all these things. And it's a balance that I'm not good at, but it's a balance that I'm learning. And if I'm not taking care of all those areas of my life, I'm bound to go back and fail again. And that's kind of where I try to stress that it's got to be a holistic approach to people.
I really like what you're saying right now because you have found, okay, so in my years on this planet, being an addict, dealing with so many addicts, helping so many addicts do their thing to get away or whatever, I have dealt with a lot of programs, and I've dealt with a lot of people from a lot of programs. And the problem I see with these programs is it's a transfer of addiction. Okay. And this is all I'm going to loop this back around. It's going to make sense in a second, but it's a transfer of addiction. So a lot of these programs, they'll take a person in need of help and they'll present themselves as the solution, and which is how it should be. And then the people, assuming that they open up enough to accept that help, they accept this program as the solution. But at a certain point, that program just becomes the new addiction. And the reason I say that I like what you're saying is because instead of making the program the addiction, because I do have a large problem with this, because I have to fucking coach a lot of people that have to wean themselves off of Alcoholics Anonymous, specifically. It is what it is. You instead of making the program the new addiction, you made life the new addiction. Yes. You made learning the new addiction. Yes. You made leveling up the new addiction. You made your family the new addiction, the balancing act the new addiction. Like you literally did just make all of this beautiful world your new addiction, and it shows. Like you glow when you start talking about shit about, you're passionate about. Like we've talked about the addiction counseling and stuff several times, and you fucking glow because you made life the new addiction rather than the program. But all of that being said, how do you if you've run into this yet or not, how do you handle a situation when you know somebody that is in NA or AA and they have now transitioned from, okay, I don't need the booze, but now I need the program, because if I don't have the program, I'm going back to the booze. How do you view that? How do you handle that?
That's a great point, because there are a lot, and I participate in NA and participate in AA. I chair a meeting downtown on Thursday nights. But here's the thing is I don't let myself get too close to it, right? It's like I can't let NA be my God. Does that make sense? I can't let AA be my God. I can't let my counselor be my God. I can't let my job be my God. I can't, all this stuff has to be like, it's a balanced approach, which is always, it's never balanced. Don't get me wrong. I don't have anything figured out. Okay. But I surround myself with people in and out of the program that are always making sure that I'm not, hey, are you doing this? Are you trying to do too much service work this month? Are you spending enough time with your family? Hey, my boss will tell me, just take a PTO. It's finals right now. I have the finals I have to do tonight. My boss said, are you going to take PTO for finals? I said, no. She's like, well, it's always on the table, Jess. Obviously I always try to do the most. See, I attack my addiction like I attack my recovery like I attacked my addiction, full out on it. But I want to be the best recovering addict I can so I can make that example for others. As far as the programs go, we have a lot of, you go down to any NA hall, any AA hall, you have a guy in there who has had 35, 40 years sobriety, right? And they are the ones who run, and they're necessary, I think, because they keep the program in line. They keep the program going because it's gone on for so many years now. But if you take that away from the addict or the alcoholic, I don't know what would happen to him, because that's become their life, which is fine. Who am I to judge? Do your recovery how you want to do your recovery. That's just what I see is that's not what I want to become. Who I want to become is somebody who has a balanced life. Who the reason you go to recovery groups is so you can learn to live outside of the group. Does that make sense? Yeah. Not to learn to be a better. Yeah, it's service. I go down there every Thursday night to chair a meeting. And I don't do it because it's like, man, I get so much out of it. I do it because I'm hoping that that person walks into the room for the first time and is looking for some help, right? But I don't make that my life. I go to my meetings and I come home. I talk to my sponsor when I need to, and I'm always working on me and the steps, but I don't make it my whole life, because if I got to think about it this way. If I get sober and I'm like, I'm going to stay sober because of Narcotics Anonymous, or I'm going to stay sober because of my family. Well, if I lose that for some reason, am I going to stay sober? I got to stay sober for me, and that's got to be, and I got to stay sober for the best me. And the only way to accomplish that in my books, this is just my recovery, I'm not speaking on anybody else's, is to make sure that I'm the best I can be in all areas of my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that because, I myself, I've dealt with it. I've had to have that first person conversation where it's like, all right, because when I was moving out of addiction, I'll lay out my addiction, or one of my addictions, my cocaine addiction. I started selling cocaine because I needed money. And I'd never done it before. And the guy that I was selling it for, he said, just don't do it. You'll make a lot of fucking money. Don't keep it out of your fucking face, And I did that for a minute, and I was making a lot of fucking, I was making a lot of fucking money. But then I was like, well, I should try this shit. Cause somebody had fucking said, like, yeah, you're selling a product you don't even know. I'm like, well, I guess I should know the product. And it quickly, because I have an overly addictive personality. Anything that I get into, there's a lot of things, like people will always call me like, hey, you want to go try this? No, I don't. Why? Well, it's just like a sporting game or something, it's just something fun. No, because I don't have the bandwidth, because if I like it, I'm going to dive headfirst into this shit. And all of this over here is going to fall down. So I have to carefully pick and choose everything I do throughout my life because I'm so head over heels into things that I like. But my cocaine addiction, when I started, I went from, I did a bump, which is just a tiny little fucking spot, just, and it didn't really do much. So I did a line and it didn't do anything. And then I did another line and I really didn't feel like it did anything for me. And then I was like, maybe I'll do another line, and then next thing you know, I'm 2.5 years into a cocaine addiction that's costing me that, in total over the course of that whole time, $250,000. I was making $38,000 a year. So I was selling this shit and I became my only customer. Like I was literally that stereotypical, that cliche guy where I had all these customers and all this money. And then I used my own shit. And then I was my only customer and I was stealing from my grandmother. I was stealing from my friends. And my grandma was the only fucking important person I ever had in my life. She saved me from fucking dying so many fucking times at the hands of my abusive father that it's not even funny to what, it's not even remotely close to funny of what I was doing to her. Right. But I woke up one day and my whole thing was I would be chopping lines before I even opened my eyes. So I had my bed pushed up against the wall and we had built-in dressers, in the wall. But one of the dressers had gotten broken from my sister when she had the room. So it didn't have one in there. So I put a TV in there and that was kind of like my little, I just used the top of that TV that didn't work as my nightstand kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I had 2 razor blades at all time because I used two razor blades to chop my shit because it chopped it faster and finer. And I'd wake up, I wouldn't even be open my eyes and I'd be over there chopping my shit. And one day I was just like, this has got to be the last time. Like, this has got to be the last fucking time. Like, I am tired of this. I'm over this. And then it was the last time. And then I had a bunch of friends of mine who, oddly enough, they all decided at about the same time that they needed to get help. So they all went and got help. And then they came back to me like, hey, dude, you got to try this program. You got to try this program. You got to talk to this counselor. You got to talk to that therapist. And I'm like, dude, I got this. I'm handling it by myself. Just let me do it, whatever. And like you saying you moved to Leavenworth or wherever because you didn't know anybody. I didn't move, but I deleted my entire phone list and then went and got a new phone so that I had a new number and nobody could fucking get a hold of me. Mm-hmm. If somebody knocked on the door, like it didn't happen often because I've always had this rule, like unexpected guests are not welcome. Right. Like if you're like, hey, I was in the neighborhood, man. Well, good. Go back down the street, text message me that you're going to stop by and then fucking come back, But like I would just shut everybody out but they would come back to me and they're like, you got to try this program. This program is amazing. Well, it was like 2 years later, I ran into a couple of them and they were still clean, but they were still in the program.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that I like to, I know it's kind of like ice skating a human hair here because if we go a little bit too far, people won't use the program. But if we don't go far enough, people will get addicted to the program. So I really like to make it known that the program can't be the new addiction, because then you're still not free. You're still not free from the addiction. You're just addicted to something else that's running your life. It's the very same way of like, I'm a big one for healing triggers. Like I tell people, you've got to heal the triggers. So like if there's and it could be anything, addiction, relationships that you lost, like let's say that particular Subway sandwich shop, you had this very fond memory of an ex-wife, and every time you drive by it, you get all broken. Like you've got to go sit in that fucking restaurant, have that conversation with your heart and figure this shit out, because these are the things that if you don't heal the triggers, there's only gonna be more throughout the course of your life. And pretty soon it's gonna be an insurmountable weight on your chest, and it's this, you're gonna look at the path and it's just gonna be full of obstacles, and you're gonna head right back to the program or right back to the solution, which is, you do, but most people don't understand the addicts. Most addicts don't want to be addicts. I didn't want to be an addict. Right. You didn't want to be an addict. Most people that are addicted to shit don't want to be an addict, but that solution works. And that's what the drug is. That's what the liquor is. That's what whatever it is it's a solution that works, and it works right fucking now,
Exactly. Well said. Well said. And that's the thing, is you have to be willing. You got to be courageous, man, because there's nothing harder. It was easier to do a tour in Iraq than it was for me to face the trauma that I had to face from childhood, to face to be like, and that's the thing about it is it's like, bro, we live in addicts. I say it again. We are so selfish when we're in our addiction, man. And it's like, when you realize that it's not poor you, things happen to you. Life's fucking not fair, man. It's just the way life is. If you want to sit around and cry about life, if I want to find I guarantee you from the moment I wake up every morning, that I can find a reason to drink or use throughout my day, every day. You know what I'm saying?
You don't even have to look.
Exactly. It's like, it's supposed to be 70 degrees out. It's 69. Guess what? I'm drinking, and people understand, people have to I want people to really understand that the rooms work, but the rooms are there to give you a way to live outside of the rooms, right? And it has to be like, I work Celebrate Recovery. I'm involved with my church. I am involved with the different things, but I don't put my whole life into any of them, right? Because my life, what really matters is my family, my career, stuff like that. It's got to be, you got to prioritize your life. And for years, my priority was kill pain and try to get as much pleasure, avoid pain, and find joy through substance, right? And now, once I got clean, I'll tell you what, I got clean, and I was like, the first 30 days, I was sitting around, and I was like, man, I'm fucking miserable.
Bored.
Yeah. I'm
fucking bored.
Why are people talking about this? Is great. This is fucking awful. You know what I mean? I'm miserable. All I could think, and luckily I was 2.5 hours away from home where I grew up at, because if I would have been in my hometown, I would have fucking been down the road and used it in a second, guaranteed. But I went to the meetings, and that's when I did 90 meetings in 90 days. And, and it's like, I go down to meetings. I very rarely go to a meeting as a participant. It's either to chair a meeting or to go down there to meet a fellow addicts, right? To help them out. I get my therapy from generally people I talk to, the friends. And that's the thing about it, is we got to replace those connections, man. You said you had those connections. Like, I deleted Facebook. I still don't have a Facebook to this day, because I knew that people would get hold of me, because people don't care about your recovery. Let me tell you that. Someone in addiction, and you can't blame them. And that leads me into something else I was going to say. There's so much shame surrounded with addiction. And it's like, bro, you did this, you did that, you stole from your grandma. I did all those things, right? Robbed people, stole from people. But it's like, that's not who you are. It's what you did. You made your amends for it. You made it right in your mind and hopefully in theirs. And you're moving on the best you can. And that's just another reason to use, because people that are like, man, I'm so ashamed of what I did. Well, you sit in that shit long enough and you're going to use on it, bro. I promise you that. Yeah. If you sit in that depression long enough, or you sit in that grief long enough, you're going to find a reason to get fucked up. That's just the way life is. And that's what addiction wants you to do. It wants you to pull you down in that shithole to where you finally get tired of being just unhappy. And you're like, I know a way out of this. Dude, I'll tell you this day, if I get bad news, I still don't know how to sit with that shit, bro. I'm just like, man, fuck. And that voice in the back of my head still says, Jess, you know how to get rid of that motherfucking pain. Go ahead and take that hit, and it goes away because I have good people around me, and I have a family, and I have a life, and I own my house. Well, the bank does, but you know what I mean? I bought my house, I own my cars, and it's like I have a good life, and I've surrounded myself with all these things because it's just another pillar of my recovery, right? And that's why I keep telling people it's got to be holistic. Put things in your life that you don't want to lose, right? Family, kids. Make them center in your life to when I know that if I go use today, I have to come back home to my kids and look them in the face. And that's not something I'm ever prepared to do.
Well, that's something for me, like in my life, like after I had beaten the coke and the ecstasy and all the fucking muscle relaxers and all that shit, I did get to a point where, I controlled it so I could do coke again. And I'll tell you this, I had done coke. It had to have been probably 2 years after I had stopped. And it wasn't awesome. Like, I didn't like it. Like, no. I immediately got the neck. I remembered everything that I didn't love about it. The neck aches in the back of your head, the fucking dry sinus cavity, like the raspy throat. Like, I was like, dude, how the fuck do people do this to themselves? But the whole time I was doing it, it was like, because you had said earlier, like, avoid pain, seek pleasure. Mine was kill pain, mitigate damage. I would do anything to my body that I needed to do to kill the fucking pain that I was suffering. And then I would try to mitigate the damage from that later on. But it's, now it's, like, I wouldn't, like, there's nothing in me that wants to, like, I know it's a great time. Like, I still have that, like, dude, Adderall's fucking awesome. Yeah. Cocaine's awesome. Fucking mushroom, all this stuff is awesome. But I won't do it because, not only because, even on let's put it this way, even in my wildest dreams, if I wanted to have a party night, right? I'd call my buddy and, like, give me an 8-ball. Let's do this shit. I couldn't do it because fentanyl is so prevalent nowadays that if that would be the time where I would get the spiked bag or the stomped on bag, and then my kids would have to live with dad died of a fucking fentanyl overdose doing cocaine. After he was, and that's the way I always think about it. And I've put that to a couple of people or to plenty of people, and a lot of people seem to like that. It's that's like you said, that's not going to be my fucking legacy. I'm not going to die convulsing on the floor because I decided to party one night. I'll smoke weed or I'll fucking, I may have a beer. I've never been a really big drinker, but I might just have a joint or something and just chillax on the couch. I don't need all the chemicals and the thises and the that's. I don't need to overdo it, because like I'm also, when we talk about addictions, I've been a food addict my whole life. I was beaten daily as a child, and food was the only thing that I was able to find that always made me smile and never judged me. I'd go to school and I'd be fucked up, bruised up. I'd have my one eye closed because my dad fucked me up again, and people would judge the fuck out of you and not want anything to do with you. Food never did that. Food was always there for me, waiting for me with a big warm hug, make me feel good, So when we talk about addiction, I think it's important for people to understand that addiction has many faces. Oh, man. It's not just drugs. It's not just alcohol. It's food. It's pleasure. It's, I happen to know 3 dudes right now that are trying to beat pornography addiction and jerking off. I mean, one of these guys I know, which he won't even mind me saying it because I'm not going to give a name, but he says he jerks off 9 to 14 times a day. This is a problem.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't even know how his fucking dick is still attached to his body, but this is what addiction looks like for a lot of people, Absolutely. So I like to put that out there for people is just, oh, I'm not an addict, aren't you? Aren't you? Just because you're not addicted to cocaine or you're not addicted to alcohol, it doesn't mean you're not addicted to those Xanny bars you swallow by the handful to deal with the life you didn't want to lead. It doesn't mean you're not an addict because you want to sit on the fucking couch as soon as you get home from work, drink 2 bottles of wine every night and watch your soap operas. Maybe the wine isn't even the addiction. Think about maybe the TV is the addiction. Yes. Everything can be an addiction. So you got to keep your eyes open for it if you want to live a free life.
100. I mean, IG, Instagram. I'm telling you right now, I started posting and now I'm like, man, I got to fucking get my followers up. I got to grow the account, so and my wife's like, are you still on that? I'm like, and luckily, as I said, I got my wife to be like, hey, dude, get your ass out of the phone, come spend time with your kids. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll get caught up in it and, we need to go doing stuff for the family. And that's when I surround myself with people that check me and I take that. I take that constructive criticism and I don't let it blow my ego down. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, we all need help. And I'm glad you said that because I go to a program called Celebrate Recovery. It's and other people are like, it's a Christian-based program. But what it does is most people that are in there aren't in there for drugs or alcohol. They're in there for pornography. We got a guy that's in there for adrenaline junkie. We have guys that are in there for lusting. Just they want to be better people. And I also go to a men's group that's not affiliated with anything. It's just and that's what I think the greatest thing about it is going to a support group is not really, you don't call it a support group. Just go around a whole bunch of people that are going to call you out on your shit. They're going to be like, hey, this is where I feel safe enough to vent about my wife, or maybe I am going through a phase in my life where I want to watch porn and it's nothing that I've never done before. Now I'm doing it more than I should. Or maybe I'm not fucking taking care of my family because I'm too busy working. And in whatever your addiction is, because we as addicts trade one addiction for another, right? That's what we do. They just got to be healthy addictions, right? My kids have become my addiction, and all that stuff has got to be making sure that, because those connections have to be refound, and you can't just get clean by yourself and not have any friends, because you're going to be a lonely ass sober dude is what you're going to be. You might as well just keep drinking or using because you're going to be fucking miserable anyways. And then making sure you surround yourself and giving back, like you said, you give back all the day to these people because that's your community, right? That's who you surrounded yourself with, are these people who it's a relationship that helps grow you as a person and it helps grow them as a person. And that's what I try to stress to people so much is like, bro, if you want to change, you got to fucking change everything. Everything in your life's got to change. You
got to shake the Etch-a-Sketch. For anybody that doesn't know what an Etch-a-Sketch is, because we're old, it's this big red tablet before tablets were tablets, and it had two knobs on it, and you could draw with it, and it had this magnet dust shit in it. And then as soon as you got done with it, you shook the fuck out of it, and then it was empty again, and you could restart. That's what it takes. You have to shake the Etch-a-Sketch. When you go to, because that's a huge problem with addicts that I've known is that they want to change something. Mm-hmm. Not everything, something. They want to change this part and they want to change this part. But what they don't understand is that this part is attached to 9 other parts that's leading you to this part. And this part over here is attached to 24 other things that is leading you to this part. And now that you have these 2 parts, they're coming together and they're making a giant fucking problem for you. So typically when you're in the depths of despair in addiction, the only choice you have is to change everything. Delete your fucking phone numbers, delete your contacts, move out of the town everybody can get to you in. You've drastic times call for drastic measures, but everybody seems to want to fix the most catastrophic events with the lightest duty. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And that's 100%. It's like I have a group of people that I work with, and I don't go into names or anything like that, but we have these clients that are they have multiple DUIs, right? And they become clients because they're required by the state to work with us. And it's like they always come to me and they're like, "All right, Jess, I got these DUIs," and it's like I don't want to quit drinking, but I want to fucking quit drinking and driving, right? And it's like, well, bro, or ma'am, you've got fucking how many? 6, 8 DUIs, 3, whatever it is, and you don't think that drinking might be a problem in your life? And having somebody, and that's the problem is so many people, and myself included, we walk around thinking that just because we're not in prison or just because we're not in jail or just because we have money or success, that we're all of a sudden good people and we're all of a sudden doing what we should to give back to our community, right? We just think that, because and you see it all over online, all these entitled people that just have money, probably never worked a day in their fucking lives, right? Especially, and I'm not a women hater or anything. I have these liberal women that just hate. And I'm sure a lot of it's just for gigs, for clickbait, but it's like, do you realize what the working class person goes through on top of not having shit and still being a good person? You have people out there that set their value on what they have around them. right? Or set their value on, I want to look down on somebody. And like you said, just because my doctor prescribes me 30 fucking Xanax a day and I'm smashing these things, I don't have an addiction, but I want to look down on somebody who went to prison and be like, look at this fucking criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a strong tendency as people to view things very clearly outwardly, but never inwardly. Like one of the things I use to illustrate that is about myself. Like I'm all for addiction counseling. I'm all for addiction coaching. I'm all for addiction recovery. But then there is this other side of me that I hate the addict on certain levels, like 100% transparent here. I've had a lot of family members die from alcoholism, both in my direct family and my wife's family. There's been alcoholism related suicides, alcoholism related deaths. And I've been a body man. I fix cars that get in accidents for fucking 20 years. Like I build hot rods and shit, but every now and then I'm a heavy hit specialist. So every now and then somebody gets a DUI, they get in a drunk driving accident. And I've fixed a lot of cars that have killed children. The last one I fixed was an Acura MDX, and the windshield was all caved in, and there was some weird damage on the front. And I was trying to figure out how it happened, like what happened to this car, because, that's part of my job is to figure out what it hit or what hit it so that I know what ripple effect that had. If something hit it hard enough to do this, then there may be a kink in the frame rail somewhere behind the driver, which will lead to an unsafe situation in a future accident. So I've got to try to figure this out. And I had this Acura MDX in there, and I called my friend who is in the police department that towed the vehicle to me. And I said, hey man, what happened to this thing? And, he said he hit a kid. He was fucking hammered and he hit a little kid, and a 6-year-old girl fucking went through the windshield. And right then and there, I was like, and you let him live? Like I have this very, very cut and dry, especially for alcohol, because I've seen it destroy every family I've ever known it to be in. If you get a DUI, then you get, do whatever you got to do. State mandated help, this and that and the other thing. But I'm at the point now where drunk driving is so prevalent and it's killing so many people that I believe on the second DUI, they should just drop you. Like right on the side of the fucking road. Let's just be done, because you're not learning your lesson. And we're watching other people's babies die because you won't learn your lesson. And that in and of itself is something I have to deal with, because that is a very, very, very bold stance to take on this, because again, I'm not blind to the fact that there's some hypocrisy there. I'm not saying that, well, if you can't get your shit straight on coke, then you should die. Right. I can justify that in all these other ways, but if you've got to apply justifications to it, there's some deeper thinking that needs to be done. So I do have that in me when it comes to alcoholics specifically and driving specifically. But I feel a deeper tie to that because I've had to fix cars for living people that killed children, all because of a bad decision. When you're talking addictions and ex-addicts, I think it's important to instill in the ex-addicts themselves a lack of hatred for the future addicts. And again, I'm not blind to the hypocrisy of what I'm saying, but a lot of addicts that beat their shit have a tendency to hate the future addicts. Like, I don't know why the fuck you're doing that shit. Why I did it. I got it off. Why the fuck ain't you getting off? We don't tend to remember that it was like 2 or 3 years of pain and despair it took us to get off of the shit, and how long before that we put it off. So when you get into situations with addicts and when you're in your program, you're chairing your programs and whatnot, and do you ever get into situations where you have older addicts or, older recovered addicts that kind of give a little bit of shit to the new boots, if you know what I mean? You ever get that?
Oh, listen, it's yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you get down there, especially young, when you come in there, you're clean for like 2 weeks or whatever. You want to blab on and share about what your day was like. And you got the old timer, man, shut the fuck up, sit down, learn something, right? Because all you're doing is talking out the fucking neck, and they see people come in and out of the rooms, and they've been in there for 30 years watching this shit go down. And there has to be, and I think what I thought about when you were talking about that, there's got to be more accountability in our society in general. You know what I mean? And that starts at home. You know what I mean? It really does. And I tell people all the time, if you want to change the world, you want to change your state, the country, it starts at home in the family. You know, you got to raise your kids the right way. And I say the right way. There's no wrong way to raise a kid.
There is.
No. I'm saying there's no wrong way to raise a kid. Is the mentality that you see. Okay, so I don't want to get into that, but I see these people in these drag shows and all this shit going on in life, and it's like, what do you expect's going to come out of that situation, right? And I'm not saying you have to raise your kids in a Christian home. I'm not saying that. I raised my kids in a Christian home. Why? Because my kids are going to learn good lessons from being raised Christian way, right? They're not going to learn to hate anybody through the Bible, and people can say all they want about the Bible. There's no hate in the Bible. I don't think there's ever been anything that in the Bible that I don't stand by and believe in, right? Here's the thing. Raise your kids to be good people and the world will be a better place. That's just a matter of it is. If you raise your kids with no accountability, they're going to get out in the world and have no accountability. If you raise your kids not to respect their elders, they're going to go out in the world and not respect anybody. If you don't have your kids fucking doing chores, working, even at 3 years old, my daughter helps me pick up the house. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't make her do it. I tell her, hey, let's go do this, because I show her through my example of what a person is supposed to live like, right? And that's the difference between people. And you can always tell the people that come out of a household or that come to the rooms of addiction and they've had their whole fucking life given to them. It's like accountability is fucking knocking at your door, bro. And it's going to hit you hard.
Yeah. It's people are allergic to accountability these days. Like I've often said, you know, okay, so when it comes to raising kids, I got kids and they're fucking awesome. Like, and I'm not saying that because I'm a fucking great dad or they're my kids, so naturally they're awesome. They really are truly awesome all the way across the board. And I take a little bit of credit for that because I was a guiding force. My current wife, their stepmother, is a huge fucking part of that. Their own mother in certain ways is parts of that. But my thing is I do believe that we should go back to a point in society where children weren't taught that they were the most important on the face of the earth in a sense of you're the only important one. I actually operated, I operate on this notion that, you know, as a child, the most important thing you can do is learn respect for your elders because they're the ones that are going to be standing in front of the moving freight train as it tries to blast into you. So I actually said to a person one day, he was really pushing on me for some help with his kids because his kids are out of control. And I just told him, I said, just sit him down and say, you know, because the last straw was, he's like, you know, I guess one of his sons was, you need to fucking respect me. And he actually swore at him for the first time. And he was like 7. And I said, you need to sit him down and you need to make him understand that out of all the people on earth, you're the last motherfucker that needs respect right now.
Right.
Everybody around you is who you need to learn to respect. If you can't learn to respect other people, what makes you respectable to begin with? And that seemed to stick. That seemed to work. Now I've got a lot of fucking heat from that, from some other fucking, some PhDs, but it worked. So, you know, it kind of comes to like, what, you know, it takes a village, and sometimes somebody in the village has got some unorthodox advice and it works, you know?
Absolutely. You know, and there's no, you know what I'm saying? There's no book to raising kids. There's no book to raising a family. And there's no book, you know, to how to do stuff. But I always look at it, as long as I'm looking at it through the eyes of, if I wake up every day, you know, and God is my higher power, and I'm like, how can I be better in the eyes of God? What can I do throughout my day that's going to make me a better person in the eyes of my God? And all that shit falls into place with my family, with work, with Instagram, with TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Am I doing this? Is, you know, there's going to be things that I do that are fucking obviously not productive, right? They're counterproductive to what my day needs to be. But as long as I'm taking care of what I need to take care of, and in the same time, am and that's one thing I noticed about raising kids is that, again, at 40 years old, I have 42 years old, I have younger kids again, is that monkey see, monkey do, right? And that's the thing about it is you got to conduct yourself, because your kids if I cuss, my kids might guess what my kids do. They cuss. Yeah. So I can't tell my kids not to cuss if I'm cussing up a storm, right? I have to set the example, right? Or when they're old enough, be like, this, you can cuss at home. Or my dad always told me this. He said, cuss at home, don't cuss outside at home. He's like, I don't care if you're going to cuss them. Kids cuss. Kids do things, but outside of the house is different than you when you're inside the house. When you're outside the house, you act like respectable kids, respectable. You say, yes, sir. You say, no, ma'am. You say these things that my kids, 3 and 5 years old right now, both of them say, thank you. You're welcome. All these things that they're taught to say at a young age, because that's how you live in life. And it's like, respect everybody around you, regardless if you don't agree with them. Just because I don't agree with half the people that I most people I work with, 90%, 95% are all liberals, right? It doesn't make them bad people. They just have a different viewpoint on politics than I do. Politics, not life, just politics, right? And there's a lot of things that I don't like. Listen, there's a lot of things on the right that I don't agree with. Right. I think that immigration, we need to deport criminals, but I also think we need a better immigration system to get the people that, you know how many people I worked with in my construction jobs that were waiting on their citizenship for 10 fucking years, to get that. And it's like, there should be a better path forward. Right. And it's like the whole community's like, I don't care what you are, respect, you're gay, I don't care what you are. Just don't put it in my fucking face every day. Right. It's like, do what you do what makes you happy. And as long as you're a good person doing it, as long as you're not affecting anybody else negatively while you're doing it, hey man, have at it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's a poignant statement. Be a good person as long as being a good person for you doesn't inflict pain upon somebody else. Because a lot of people do. A lot of people think that they're these great motherfuckers, and a lot of them fit into my category, honestly. They fit into that the personal development mentality, perspective, coach, mentor, guide kind of thing. And they try to go too hard. Like they try to be the all the way to that end of the, fuck you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, I admit that I'm not good at nuance. I don't like nuance. I don't like gray areas, but I also have to admit that they exist, and we're going to have to exercise some nuance and enter some gray areas from time to time when necessary. But these guys, they in their head believe that they're doing really great shit when they're trying to tell people to get their shit get their shit together. But what they're actually doing is just depressing the fuck out of the people that don't have their shit together, and they're forcing them back down the fucking path that they don't want to be down.
Yeah. And that's the thing about it is I always tell people when I go into rooms, I said, I come in the room and I talk and I share what I share, but I don't fucking just leave the room and forget all that shit behind me. Like, I'm in recovery. I leave the room and I go out and walk that life, because I'm not going to walk around and be a piece of shit. I have road rage. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm ready to fight every day in Kansas City. You know how the traffic is. But here's the deal: it's like I make sure that I'm walking out in my community that I might change somebody's life that day if I say something negative to somebody and they're already going through some shit. It may fucking make them go down the road that you never even know what happened to them, right? That butterfly effect. And the thing about it is suicide, man. I just heard about a veteran that committed suicide. Another one the last couple of days, and it's like 22 a day. We're losing these people because, and those are the reasons that I get involved with what I do, is because if we're losing 22 veterans a day in America, that's just insanity, right? It's like, what are we doing wrong as a community of veterans? What are we doing wrong as a community, a society, to not be reaching out to these people, right? And that's why I'm always America first, because I'm like, until our veteran suicide is zero, until our veterans and prison rate is zero, we need to fucking not worry about anybody else, because we have enough problems. We're not taking care of ourselves right now. And that's why I get so upset with, we want to help these government programs out, USAID and all these things. It's like, whoa. We have 35,000 homeless veterans on the street right now in America. We have over 600,000 homeless Americans. We have 330,000 kids in a foster care system needing homes. Mm-hmm. And we're wanting to fucking send all this money to other places. Kids in a foster care system. I don't know if you ever talked to anybody who's been through the foster care system.
My wife.
The prison's full of them.
My wife is adopted.
Yes. And thank God for people like that, right? That choose to adopt and do it for the right reasons, because it's a shithole, and there's still a lot of work we need to do. And that's why I get so frustrated with all these people talking about we got to help everybody else out. And it's like, bro, the world has its problems. They're going to have their problems. We need to help what we have right here in our community. We have dozens of our homeless shelter is full right now in Leavenworth. Our homeless shelter is full. I go down there every Wednesday morning for work. I do outreach there to get clients into rehab or get them housed, help them whatever they can get done. There's people sleeping outside of our shelter because it's full inside every single day of the week.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. And, and it all kind of boils down to the way I kind of sum it up for people is I say, you know what, if you've got 5 people in your house, let's say it's you, your wife, and 3 children, and one of those kids needs a lot of help. Mm-hmm. Are you going to walk next door and help their kid? Or are you going to help your own kid?
There you go.
You're going to help your own fucking kid. That's the way it's going to work. Well, that extends to the borders of this country. This is our family here. America, and Americans are our family. If you're not willing to help your own, how can you fucking feel so virtuous if you're foregoing helping your own to help somebody else? It can't happen. You're fooling yourself.
Perfectly put, man. I couldn't have said it better, because we have to be a family. We have to think of ourselves as a family, right? It's like that tribal mentality that people always push away from. But it's like, bro, it's not a bad thing to want to support your own and want to make yourself. But it's because if you help, think about this. If you help a family who's struggling and they're they're homeless, and the whole family is, right, they're living in this shelter. I see them all the time on the news and on YouTube, and all these families that are struggling. They just want help. They want programs. Half of them aren't aware of the programs that are out there, because I didn't know about my own company that I work for until I was a year and a half clean, right? So making awareness of the programs that are out there, but also being like, hey, let's help these families out, because once you help that one family out, they're going to be able to be like, hey, I have this lived experience. I can help others out now, right? That is a cascading effect, that when you do help one person out, it helps the whole community, because now you have less crime, you have less poverty, you have more people helping out in the community. Like, if you can fix your neighborhood and everybody else fix their neighborhood, man, how good would the world be if we looked at our neighbor like family and try to help them out? But like you just said, if my whole fucking household is a wreck, who am I helping?
Right. You're not going to help anybody, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Right. It's if the thing with helping people now, I know my current content on social media, and most people that are watching this do. My original content had nothing to do with that shit. My original content, the first 938 videos on my Instagram account on Savagely Loud are all personal development. And, and it's not bullshit personal development. It's boots on the ground. I've had to figure this out for 40 some years myself, reading psychology books and talking to court mandated therapists and all this other shit. That was my core, is to help. But when people, a lot of people get it to where they don't understand that you're not, if you can help one person, let's come back to that 40 client list, and you can only help one. You're not just helping one. You're helping one person who is then going to expand upon that help through societal means, meaning their kids aren't going to grow up to be addicts now. Their wife or their husband isn't going to fall into addiction because they're so distraught over what the condition of their mate is. You've got neighbors that are not going to fall into addiction or fall into angerful resentment based on the way their neighbors act, because their neighbors aren't acting fucked up. That's going to butterfly effect. So when people they get this idea that, if you're only going to help one person, it's not fucking worth it. But you're not just helping one person. I look at it as more of like you're helping one community. If I can get, if I got 40 people come in and I help Joe. Joe's got 3 kids at home. Yep. I just helped Joe. I helped his 3 kids. I helped his wife. I helped his brother, sister, 2 aunts, whatever. I helped everybody. And then they go on and they have this new lease on life, or this new perspective of what can happen, what is possible. Then they go on and then they live out that change. You're not changing just one person. You're changing one fucking community.
And that's exactly right. It's like, and I didn't learn that until I got clean. And my sister had friends. My sister lives in Idaho, right? And and I'm really close with her. She's my older sister, and she kind of stepped in as a mom role in the last few years, right? In the last, decade or so, because my mom's kind of crazy. But I realized that when I got clean, I had people messaging me as she gave my phone number out that were from her church and from her community that were like, "Oh, we're so glad you're healed." And like my recovery affected people who were hurting or had me in their thoughts 1,000 miles away from here, 2,000 miles away. And it's like there's so many people that are hurt from your addiction, or not just addiction, your angry behavior, your alcoholism, whatever it is that because you've been around somebody who's angry, that's just mean as fuck. My dad was like that, right?
Yep.
And nobody wants to be around that motherfucker, right? Nobody did. And when you cure that one, or when you help that one person, the whole family dynamics changed. The whole community's changed, because your negative behavior, and just like anything else, it's addictive. I mean, what do you call that? I'm trying to look for the word. I'm looking at some brain injury going on again with me, but it's contagious. That's what I'm looking for. Happiness in recovery is contagious, man. Just like misery is, and if you're around a miserable motherfucker, everybody in that room is going to be miserable around. If you're that guy or that gal who brings light into a room, guess what? You're gonna, that's contagious, and that might pass on, or it may not, but I guarantee the negative will.
Yeah, absolutely. Happiness is just as contagious as anger, and
Yes.
that's what I've had to learn. So that's, why I try to be as happy as I can all the fucking time. Not falsely happy, just genuine. Now, like do I have $1 billion in the bank? No, but I got some really good friends. I got a great wife. I got some kids that love me. I got a couple of cool cats that don't shit all over the place like some cats do. Like even down to the small shit. I'll take it. It's just that. And then you walk in, and I like Sam Tripoli, the comedian Sam Tripoli. Mm-hmm. I like his take on things. Is he? I want to say it was like an uncle of his. I had heard him say it in a podcast years ago, but he said, essentially, if you can't be an example, be a warning. Like you're either going to, or no, that's what it was. You're either going to live long enough to be an example, or you're going to live long enough to be a warning.
Yeah.
Be the example. It's not hard. It really isn't. Keep your shit straight. Have a good time now and then within reason. Don't bring it to somebody else, and you'll be all right.
And the biggest thing is I always try. There's two things that I always, and it's a practice. And all this shit is learned. This is not empathy. All that shit was stuff I had to learn because I didn't have any empathy. I went over to Iraq and I was, we were laying it down. You know what I'm saying? Empathy was something that fucking wolf. You know what I mean?
We left that on the border of the U.S.
Yeah. Well, let's lay down fire and we'll worry about battle damage assessment later, right? And that's kind of how it was. And so this is all learned, like gratitude. That's a big. We're talking about having a family, having all these things, counting your blessings every day, man. Because if I wake up every day and I'm like, man, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, you're gonna have a miserable fucking day. But if I wake up and be like, man, my kids love me, my wife loves me most of the time, she's all right with me. I have a job, I have a roof over my head, I got shit that I call my own. My day's gonna be a lot better, But it's like, be grateful, and not only that, be humble. That's the hardest thing, because it's so easy to be like, man, I got this recovery shit covered. I got people looking up to me. My wife, I support my wife. And the next thing you know, you're being an asshole to somebody and you're not even knowing it, right? And that's kind of being like, know thyself, kind of back to the Roman thing is like, you got to know who you are, evaluate every single day. And this is no bullshit. At night, when I lay down, I give my prayers for thanks, for gratitude, for making it through another day sober, another day alive, that my wife didn't leave me, my kids are happy, and I go through my head about what I did that day and how I can improve on any interaction I had with somebody, or any interaction anything. I need to spend less time on Instagram. That's a goal I have almost every day. I need to spend more, make sure that I'm being present when I'm with my kids, because I'm always with my kids, but there's a difference between being with them and being really involved with them, right? Yeah. And that's making sure that I'm present for that, because my kids are going to be only young for so long. My oldest kids are 17 and 18. And it's like, it goes by fast, and just making sure that I'm better. My goal is to be better than I was yesterday, because everybody wants to compare themselves to everybody else. And that's one thing I'll say real quick is I see so many people that come in recovery, or so many people that are struggling in life with depression or suicidal, whatever they are. and they look around and like, man, so-and-so has this and so-and-so has this and their lives. I'm 40 years old. I should be better off where I should have this much stuff in my life. Like the only person you can compare yourself to is the person you were a month ago or the person you were 10 years ago or the person you were yesterday. Because everybody else has had different lived experiences. Like you and I are roughly the same age, but we can't compare our success and our money or whatever to each other because you've lived different life than I have, right? I can't. Once we got out of the hospital, we started having different experiences, right?
Yep.
So, and that's kind of how I think about it. Is like I got to be better than I was last week, and if I'm not becoming that guy, guess what? I'm probably need to reevaluate myself.
Yeah, the way I've told people is it's not my quote. It is a quote, but it's not my quote. So, but comparison is the thief of joy. When you spend all your time comparing yourself to somebody else, you're being robbed of your own ability to experience joy for what you do have. The way I put it to people, I have put it to people, and I will continue to, is when people they get into, like, a lot of my stuff was hate coaching. I know it's shocking, but a lot of my stuff is hate coaching and kind of pulling people out of the hate. I say, like they'll get compared, like, well, how come he's got this, or he has this mindset, he has this ability to talk to so and so. I said, you know what? I said, just look down the road. Right. Just look, you're looking down a road, even if you have to imagine it, you're looking down a road, and everybody starts right here, but some people started earlier. Yeah. So when you look down the road, you're going to see a lot of people down that road, and you're just going to have to know that they were where you are. They just started a little bit earlier. They started the walk a little bit earlier. So they might be to the third stop sign by now, and you're just starting out. You're going to be there, assuming you keep walking.
Yes. And that's 100% and that's another thing that comes back to is people, if you get up in the morning and you count what you don't have, you're going to, and here's the rule. What I've learned about the secret for me is it's addiction, just looking for that reason to get in there, bro. Go ahead and put yourself down. Go ahead and see what everybody else has. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is, man, I'm lucky to be alive. I was knocked out, ejected out of a Humvee. I was a 50 cal gunner, got into that. And I'm lucky to be alive. Most ejections from IEDs, 90% of them are death. I was just lucky that I didn't die, right? So I have a lot of things to be grateful for. The fact that I'm still kicking, the fact that that I'm not living on the streets. It's cold as shit out here in Kansas. Those are things that I'm grateful for because I've been in that situation where I have been outside in the cold and had to stay in a casino for 3 days because I didn't have any place to go. Because casinos are open 24/7. That was the life that I lived, and that's why I think it's so important to put out there to people. It's like, bro, recovery. That's why my motto: recovery is possible if you're willing to change fucking everything.
Yeah. I think we should wrap it up on just that note. Recovery is possible, but you've got to be willing to change everything. I will add, most of the time changing everything gives you all sorts of shit you never know you could have. Because it really does. Brings you a bright future, bright smiles, bright eyes. It's awesome. It really is awesome. Guys, this conversation was fucking amazing, dude. I couldn't be more grateful that you came on the show and we had this conversation. We've got this a bit when we've had this opportunity to show the world your heart. Show the other people out there that may be looking to follow in your footsteps, whether they're addicts looking to get clean, or they're ex-addicts looking to help, or they're not even addicts and they just give a shit about people. Let everybody know where they can find you again, just in case they want to reach out and give you a follow or pick your brain on what they can do to be part of the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Recon to Recovery, the number 2, Recon to Recovery on TikTok or on Instagram. And you guys can instant message me, man. You guys can message me. I get hate-filled messages all the time, but I respond to anybody who messages me who wants, because a lot of people want to talk, and a lot of people want to know where to get help at. Message me anytime. I may not always respond in an hour, but I will get back to you if you sincerely want help. And I'll even give you my phone number. We can talk if you're really serious about getting help. That's
a fucking killer individual, guys. And that That's fucking awesome, dude. I appreciate you on behalf of all addicts, ex-addicts, former addicts, and future addicts, future recovered addicts. I appreciate the ever-loving fuck out of you. And I think I truly believe that what you're doing is adding a layer of beauty to the world that would not otherwise be in place if it wasn't for you specifically. So that being said,
Thank you so much.
That being said, guys, if you want to help us get these kind of stories out, these kind of words out, these kind of truths out, you can follow me on Instagram at Savagely Loud. That is where I'm most active. And on that page, you're going to find 2 links. One of those links is to the Savagely Loud podcast page. Please follow me there too for updates on the show and, because it's going to be my backup one day. And yeah, the other link you're going to find is a simple link tree. Anywhere you want to hear my rants or see my bullshit, you can do it there, easy peasy. Outside of that, Facebook, X, Rumble, and Substack at Savagely Loud, YouTube at Savagely Loud Podcast, and you can email me in at savagelyloud@gmail.com, which I strongly suggest you do. Finally, like, comment, and share the material, please. And don't forget to write a review, rate the show. It really does help us get people like Jess out here that are trying to spread a message of love, compassion, and help and on greatness. It helps us get them out there just as much as it helps us get every other message out there. That all being said, guys, we've been down in the dark today, and you know that what time it is. We don't want to walk away from our episodes all anxious and shit. So let's remind ourselves that there's still some humanity out there with a little segment I like to call Hopelessly Human. It starts a little bit like,
people can be rough, they can be quite tough, they can get in the way, but at the end of the day, some aren't only stupid, some are hopelessly human.
Yes. Some are hopelessly human, and this one is no different. This hopelessly human comes to you from a site called inspirationallife.com. The caption is the gift of giving. A bright-eyed boy of 10, Ethan, woke up on his birthday morning excitedly. He eagerly unwrapped his presents, smiling at the thoughtful gifts from his family and friends. Among them was a generous amount of money from his grandparents, meant for him to spend on something special. As Ethan contemplated what to do with the money, he wandered to the local children's hospital and he had heard about at school. His teacher had mentioned that many of the children there were dealing with severe illnesses and could use some cheering up. With a heart full of compassion, Ethan made a decision that would change not only his life, but the lives of those around him. Instead of buying something for himself, he used the money to purchase toys and games for the children at the hospital. Ethan's parents, touched by their son's selflessness, helped him pick out various gifts that would bring joy to young patients. They then accompanied him to the hospital, where Ethan delivered the presents to the children. The smiles on the sick children's faces as they received gifts were priceless. Ethan's heart swelled with happiness, knowing that he had made a difference in their lives, even for just a moment. Inspired by Ethan's acts of generosity, his classmates decided to join his mission. They organized a toy drive at school, collecting donations from students and their families together. Together, they created care packages filled with toys, books, and warm blankets for the children at the hospital. The impact of Ethan's decision rippled through the community, inspiring others to give back in their ways. Local businesses partnered with the school to support the toy drive, and soon the hospital was overwhelmed with donations. Ethan's birthday had become a celebration of giving, and he realized that the true gift was not in receiving, but the joy of making others happy. He had discovered the power of compassion and how a single act of kindness could inspire a community to come together for more significant cause. I'm going to dedicate that hopelessly human to you, dude, because I feel like you are the embodiment of this young Ethan kid, just wanting to make other people's life better.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate you having me on. I'm super grateful, and I hope everybody got something out of tonight, and reach out to me if you need to. I'm always available.
Everybody undoubtedly got something out of tonight. I appreciate you being here. That's Hopelessly Human, and that's the show.